Our objective today is that we will find volume and measurements of 3D shapes using discovery and formula. We are in part 2 of this video, and what we're going to be doing here is finding measurements using a given volume. So if you need help with finding volume and figuring out those formula, go back and watch part 1. We're going to be going through that a little bit faster this time. So in our first example, it gives us a rectangular prism and a volume for that rectangular prism. So in the last video and in the earlier problems that you did, this is what you were finding. Now we've got this, we're going to work backwards. So in order to do this, we need to start with a formula. The volume of a rectangular prism is V equals base times height, which is the area of the rectangle, times the height of the whole thing. In this case, it does not matter which the base, height, and height are because they all go together, but sometimes it does. For some shapes, never for rectangular prisms. Once you have this formula, it's just plugging in the numbers and solving, and the only difference here is that 82 is the volume, so that has to go where the V is. So we've got 82 equals base times height, and I'm just going to use the 5 and the 4 for this, times the height of the whole thing, which it said it wanted us to use x, so that's what I'll use. I'm going to simplify this first by doing 5 times 4, so that's just 20x. And then we've just got an algebra 1 equation here, so this is going to be divide both sides by 20, and we get that x is equal to 82 over 20, which simplifies to, sorry, I'm grabbing my calculator because I do not want to write a decimal, 41 over 10. I feel silly, I definitely could have done that in my head. So we've got 41 over 10 as the length of x. Since these are measured in meters, this is also measured in meters. So x is 41 over 10 meters. Next example is a cylinder. This is a parallel solid with a circular base. So that means my formula is V is equal to pi r squared, that's the area of the base, times the height of the whole thing, which is h. In this case, they're asking us what the radius is. Now it is up to you if you want to leave that as r, or if you want to turn it into an x like this one did. I don't really care. I'm going to leave it as r, but do whatever you like. So they told us that the volume was 150 pi, so I'll put that where the V is equal to pi r squared, and I don't know what r is, but I do know that h is 6. My second step, similar to the first example, is to kind of simplify this and rearrange it. So really there's not much to do here. I'm just going to put the 6 out front. So I've got 150 pi is equal to 6 pi r squared. And then there's actually going to be 2 steps left in this case. I'm going to divide by 6 pi to get r squared by itself. And we're kind of lucky here, the pi's cancel, and we just get to do 150 over 6, which would be, what is that, 75 over 2? No, I'm stupid. It's 25. Sorry, I'm not stupid. I'm just not in a good mental math mood right now. So we get r squared is equal to 25. And then the next step would be to square root both sides to get r by itself. I'm a little out of space, but hopefully you still have space. And we get that r is equal to 5. This is measured in inches. So that is our missing radius. All right, last example of this video. What we have here is a point solid this time because the rectangular base all connects to that point. So our volume is 1/3. Point solids always start with 1/3. The base is a rectangle, so base times height, and then the height of the entire thing, which is going to be that 1.2. I'm noticing that this particular example doesn't ask for this value. I don't know what it is, but they didn't ask for that. They asked for the perimeter of the base. So after we find what x is, we're going to have to go back and find the perimeter. In this case, they told us that our volume was 1.6, and then we've got 1/3. Base times height here would be 0.8 times x, and then the height of the entire thing is 1.2. Just like the last couple of examples, we're going to multiply, in this case, 1/3 times 1.2 times 0.8. We're going to multiply all those together to make this easier on ourselves, and the 1.6 just stays there. So when we do that, I'm doing 1/3 times 1.2 times 0.8, and that comes out to 0.32. Normally I would write fractions, but because this problem gave me decimals, it's telling me decimals are appropriate. When I divide 1.6 by 0.32 to get x by itself, this actually comes out quite nicely to 5. Now keep in mind, that's not what they asked for, but we needed to find that. What they actually asked for was the perimeter of the base. So the perimeter of the base would be this 5, that 0.8, this 5, and that 0.8. So our perimeter is equal to 2 5s plus 2 0.8s, and that's going to come out to 11.6 centimeters. So, I apologize again for calling myself stupid. You should never do that either. Our objective today was to find volume and measurements of 3D shapes using discovery and formula, specifically working backwards with the volume to find a missing measurement.